been one of the most surprising things to me at minicamps yesterday. This is Danielle Hunter when asked about what his offseason has been like.
It's been a good offseason so far. Focused on gaining more strength, focused on getting better as a football player, put on 5 pounds of muscle. So that's a plus. Just basically just getting my body ready for the season.
Oh, yeah, 5 pounds. Okay, just as a reminder, where the bleep do you put it? You bastard. You son of a bitch. Yeah, look. I can put 5 pounds of body weight on in 1 hour at a 4th of July barbecue. I could gain 15 pounds, no problem at all. My physique, it's a shock to you guys, might be a little bit different than Danielle Hunter's. So the big guys, the defensive tackles, the offensive guards and whatnot, we can put on some mass. Danielle Hunter is a guy that's always walking around at ridiculously low body fat. So for him to put on 5 pounds of muscle, I believe it. I believe that's verified by however they measure their body fat, the dunk tank, whatever it might be. CJ Stroud's all yoked up. That's good. And the 5 pounds of muscle is interesting just in that obviously Danielle's been working out for a while. It's not like he's never been in the weight room before, but some of that sometimes can just be more of a focus on the legs or the types of workouts that you do. And in his second year with Mike Eubanks, the strength coach, they might have said, look, okay, we're going to do more high rep leg stuff and put a little mass. For lack of a better word, he's kind of like yoked up but lanky at the same time. So it's not like he doesn't have the frame to put on the weight. I don't worry about him all of a sudden losing pliability or anything like that. So I'm intrigued. I'm very much intrigued as he also still is adapting to the scheme. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. That this might be a more powerful version of a guy that's a double-digit sack guy every year. I like this. He was asked about the tandem of him and defensive end Will Anderson, the relationship they formed, and he included the interior defensive lineman in his response. Where'd you go?
Coming off last year, I feel like we have great chemistry. We kind of know how each other rushes now. So going out there, I kind of figure like what he's about to do. He'll figure out what I'm about to do. So it's great chemistry, especially with the interior guys.
Yeah, so with the interior guys, this is what I'm intrigued by because this is something that forms over time. Just like an offensive line gets better when they can all play together and start to understand exactly how guys are going to play certain blocks, how they're going to pass off blocks. Defensive line is the exact same thing. And when you've got really athletic, awesome defensive ends, a lot of the responsibilities on the defensive tackles to just simply be sure you know exactly what your role is in the pass rush. If I'm Foley Fatukasi, hey, I'm not the 15 sack guy. I want to be sure that I'm always helping the defensive end out. If he comes inside, I replace him. If he's rushing outside, I got to maintain my spots. A couple clips that I just grabbed real quickly that illustrate just good good coordination between teammates. So this is Derek Barnett on the left, and that is, I believe, Foley Fatukasi on the inside. No, I think that's Mario Edwards. That's Mario Edwards on the inside. This is an unbalanced look. So they have 3 defensive linemen to the left, 1 to the right. But this is, Derek Barnett is a defensive end playing here almost like a defensive tackle. And I just want you to watch, like, this would be simply, you could just call this a twist or an ET game where the defensive end goes first. But watch what Derek Barnett does. He starts upfield like he's rushing outside, right? And look at Mario Edwards. He's the defensive tackle there. He's taking a hard step to the inside. They're not just going straight to where they're going to eventually end up. Mario comes all the way down in there, and Barnett's able to kind of ambush the guard and center. The guard freaks out, stays on Barnett, and then Mario Edwards gets a sack. And that was early in the season last year. These guys do a really good job of playing their responsibilities in the pass rush. This is Foley Fatukasi with Danielle off to his left. This is talk about defensive tackles. Kind of, if they're not stud pass rushers, his responsibility, aside from rushing the passer, is that he's got to be sure that that Danielle Hunter there can do whatever the hell he wants. Danielle does a great job of compressing the pocket, but not getting too far upfield. And Fatukasi has an eye on him and has extension so that when Richardson scrambles, boom, he can throw him across get the sack, because really a lot of the success of the pass rush in total last year was a matter of guys playing their responsibilities. And I know there have been times where maybe they weren't getting sacks in scores over the course of a couple of weeks, but they had, especially versus athletic quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson, that disciplined pass rush is really, really important. And that's when your defensive ends, it's not just the sacks they create. It's just like right there where Mario Edwards gets a sack just by having his eyes up and keeping in the peripheral, keeping his eye on Danielle Hunter. So there's potential for improvement in that regard this year. This was an interesting one. Somebody had asked Danielle if there were more sacks out there for him and Will Anderson than they actually got on that they actually produced last year. Let's see.
Finished a lot of sacks, but do you feel like there's even more sacks out there for you guys?
Honestly, we missed a lot of sacks last year. So I feel like this year, the biggest thing is just focusing on the little things and being able to finish those sacks that we missed last year.
Yeah, and this jibes with what Will Anderson had said about what his pro-grow tape is. A lot of this stuff is just still at the top of his rush as you get close to the quarterback. How are you getting off your block, but then also poking at the ball and just being surgical and getting the ball out, creating strip sacks. Hey, slamming a quarterback is fun, but it's largely disallowed in this modern NFL. The potential for strip sacks for a unit that already creates a lot of turnovers, I think that's where you're going to see it, especially with Will, because Will's hyper like me, and sometimes it's hard to focus in. It's like trying to perform needlecraft while you're running a wind sprint. You're getting close to making a play, and you just want just poke the ball out, Mario Williams style. Just poke the ball out. I think we'll see improvement in that regard. Danielle Hunter's always been good at that, but this one other area. Danielle's talking about the group and how they can improve. He was asked how the defense can improve, but I think especially this applies to Danielle Hunter for one very specific reason.
Just getting off the ball. As a defensive line, the biggest thing we want to do is just get off the ball. When you get off the ball, you make plays.
Yeah, okay, sounds simple enough, right? But this is the thing. There's two types of different kind of styles of defensive line play. There's what D'Amico likes to employ, which is just get out, get across the line of scrimmage, penetrate into the backfield. Okay, maybe you lose your gap, but you're disrupting upfield. The defensive tackles, they got to balance that out a little bit, but a lot of times with the ends in this defense, they just want those guys hell-bent for leather and then forcing everything to the inside if it's a run or what have you. Danielle in Minnesota, largely, I think every year he was in Minnesota, or at least the majority, he was in what you call a read and react mode, where you're waiting to see where the offensive line goes before you make your movement. A lot of times you're mirroring the offensive lineman, and you're not firing across the line no matter what. And you get that drilled into your head year after year after year, and it's muscle memory. You're just trained that it's a bad thing or it's selfish a lot of times to just rocket across the line of scrimmage. And I was talking to Sean Pendergast on our show, Payne and Pendergast, every day from 6 to 10 a.m. on Sports Radio 610 this morning. It's so ingrained in your head that you're not supposed to just shoot across the line, that it feels like when you're 21 years old and you buy beer at a convenience store for the first time, you're still kind of like nervously like, this is my legitimate government ID and I'm handing it to you. Please, sir, can I have some alcohol? And it took me like a full year or two before I felt comfortable buying a 12-pack of beer, even though it was 100% legal to do so. So with defensive lineman, Mario Edwards had talked about this last year. It's hard to get out of those habits. Anytime you're afforded a new freedom, but you've been told and it had it drilled into your head not to do that, unless we specifically tell you to do it. It's hard to get comfortable with it no matter how good an athlete you are. And that's where I think Danielle, it's almost as much of a psychological shift as it is anything else. And it was a really good year for him already last year. But I think when it's more natural, that you might see some even greater results this year, which is really nice. CJ is working on his lower body too. And I'm going to do a little video later with CJ Stroud where I get a little bit nervous about quarterbacks working out super hard in the weight room unless they're Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, his strength is his calling card, and that's what makes him special. When the quarterback, Ryan Mallett tore his pec after his first start because he was trying to max bench in the weight room. That's the horror story where the cautionary tale of, hey, be careful in the weight room. The numero uno concern is throwing the football. but I'll get into that a little bit later. Thank you for joining the live stream. Thank you for showing us the moves that create sacks that aren't talked about during the game. You know who might be talking about it during the game this year? One, J.J. Watt, color analyst. He'll probably have a couple of Texans games, so that'll be fun. Yeah, seems similar to the NBA using boundaries as another defender to force a play that leads to sacks. Yes, whenever you hear about contained pass rush, this is very much it. If I go to the Foley Fatukasi one, it is about, especially with athletic quarterbacks, you want to create no easy lanes. And right there, if you look at the defensive ends, there have been Texans defenses in the past that had good edge rushers, but it would drive me insane because at this point right here, they both might be like running behind the quarterback. There's something to getting to the level of the quarterback. When you watch these defensive ends right there, you don't want to get any deeper than that. You don't want to be running past the quarterback unless you got a clear shot. So when they get to the level of the quarterback, if you don't have your guy beat, compress, and then because Fatukasi has good extension, even though he knew he didn't have a good pass rush going, look at that guard. So Mario's all the way to the right of your screen there, or excuse me, Fatukasi's to the right of your screen there. He's got that guy jacked up, and he can just do with him what he wants and pull down Anthony Richardson. And Anthony. If they do indeed see Anthony Richardson, there's Daniel Jones in that situation, I think might be a little bit more adept at getting vertical because there was a big hole there. But that's the key, and it's hard as hell for super aggressive defensive ends to always stay true to that. I think Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are very disciplined in that regard, and it's hard to find. We're an unruly bunch, us defensive linemen.